we're going to kind of jump right off the bat into a really kind of deep topic, and that is Vocal Beauty Part 1, tips to get out of the judgment trap of your own voice. I think that self-judgment and the kind of dialogue or monologue that goes along in your head is usually what stops people from expressing themselves vocally, whether it's singing, speaking, or even speaking their truth or trusting themselves to speak on something that's important to them. So it's a very large topic, and the reason why I mentioned that earlier is because, of course, we can't cover the whole topic of vocal beauty in a short Q&A, but there are 2 points that I want to start with, and I think over time we're going to build on this topic of vocal beauty to kind of really add a lot of facets to it. So the first point that I want to make today about vocal beauty and tips to get out of the judgment trap is number 1. This is a physical thing. We need to consider that the voice, like any other part of the body, it's something that needs to be used to perform well. It's like any other set of muscles, any other set of skills. It doesn't mean that you have to be super well trained. It doesn't mean that you have to spend, half of your life or your whole life dedicated to vocal study. No. But what it does mean is be kind to yourself. If you are not used to singing, if you're not used to exercising those physical muscles and that spiritual muscle of using the voice to express, the muscle fatigues easily and it feels difficult, or it can even not sound good, quote unquote, because, hey, it's difficult and the muscles are tired. So I like to use the analogy of a marathon or other kind of sports endeavors because I feel like it's more relatable and it's like less charged than singing in the voice. So think about it like a marathon runner. A person who wants to run a marathon isn't going to feel bad when on their very first training run, they can't run the 42 kilometers. There might be other things going on. I mean, I've run a marathon myself, and the first couple of months of runs were rough. Yeah, all the same dialogue that goes on in the head about the voice stuff also goes along in the head about other topics. So there are sometimes some things in your mental dialogue that you need to get over or work past. But essentially, using the marathon as an analogy, it takes time for the body to get used to running a marathon. It's a different usage of the musculature. It's a different usage of the ligaments. It's a different use of your mental and spiritual and psychological endurance. Yeah. It's the same thing for singing. You're working here with in a very small area for the vocal apparatus. There's a ton of muscles in here, but they're all very small. It's all very fine, minute movements. You're also dealing with a whole different set of coordination than you're used to with the breathing for singing, the posture, the things that you're thinking about. So, vowels, consonants, length of notes, all that stuff. So if you remember, especially at the beginning when it's uncomfortable and when you're really learning how to express yourself through your vocal instrument, if you can remember that the voice is like any other part of the body, that it needs to be used to perform well, that perspective alone will help you remove yourself from the judgment of the voice. Because what happens is we forget that part. We automatically associate it with ourselves, with our self-worth, with our value or our ego. And we say, this doesn't feel good. I'm not good at this right now. I'm bad. Or I can't do this, or I have no right to do this, or I shouldn't open my mouth. Yeah, all that stuff. So again, that's one thing that's important to consider, because when you depersonalize it and give it its space and reality as just a physiological truth, it takes out the charge and it takes out the judgment. So that's number 1. Point number 2 to this point of vocal beauty and getting out of the judgment trap. This is a little bit more of it's a little bit more of a philosophical one, but I think that it's almost more important than the last one. And that is for us to reflect on what beauty actually means and to think about and kind of like determine, are the things that I'm attributing to beauty actually other things, not having to do with beauty? For example, let's say you're singing and you're feeling tension or there's a discomfort and you're like, oh, this is an ugly sound. Well, if it is an ugly sound and it's caused by tension, the sound isn't ugly. You're hearing a result of a tension in the voice. So is it ugly? Is it not beautiful? No, it's tense. Is tense ugly? No, it's tense. Let's move past the judgment of beauty and look at the actual underlying root of what we're feeling, tension, whatever. Another thing is comparison. Are you comparing your voice to somebody else's voice that you really like? A celebrity, one of your friends, a sibling, somebody in your family, a frenemy, I don't know. Are you comparing your voice to them? And how is that affecting your perception of beauty in your own voice? Now, I want to relate this to a story because, and that's actually not voice related, but like it happened to me today just as I was preparing for this Q&A, and it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks about beauty. So I'm right now in the first year of Celtic shamanic training with Sleon Cree, working with John and Karen there. And essentially we are now in the south direction. So of the 4 directions, we're in the south, the 3rd direction. And this month we're to choose, as with every direction, we're to choose 3 sacred stones that will ultimately end up in our sacred bundle, in our mala. And the instruction was to pick 3 stones that were for us beautiful. We're not sharing them with anyone else. This is not a beauty contest, beauty in our own eyes. So I got this email last night. Cool, I'm going to go find my stones. And I have stones all over my apartment. I pick them up places and, I love rocks. So, and I'm looking around at my stones and going, oh, nothing is beautiful enough. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I need to go to the stone store, the rock store. And I need colorful and I need interesting patterns and la, la, la. In the meantime, I have beautiful stones here in this apartment that are not yet in my mala. They're not yet in taking part in any of my spiritual life. They're just beautiful things that are sitting here. But in my mind, I needed something more flashy, more spectacular, more whatever. Yeah, more beautiful. And as I sat there, I recognized that I had kind of pulled some stones to the side and made a pile of potentially beautiful stones. And I realized, holy crap, I am so judgmental right now of beauty. I am not looking at what I have. I'm not looking at what's here. I'm not honoring the beauty and essence of the stones, the Leah that are actually here with me right now. And I'm thinking, I need something more beautiful. And I started speaking to the stones, and I recognized that there are stones in my possession, or, that I have adopted, because you can't really own them. But there are stones here in my possession that are beautiful. Are they flashy and impressive like a ruby, or like, a piece of turquoise, that we kind of societally treasure as, semi-precious stones? No, but yes, they are in their own way. So how does this stone topic relate to the voice and the perception of beauty in the voice? I realized that the same judgment goes on to the voice as what happened with me last night in my stones. And I have also many times fallen victim to that, my own mentality of my voice isn't beautiful enough. It's not polished enough. I mean, judgment. Assigning non-beauty as an excuse for non-action. So reflecting on what is beauty and what does it mean is extremely important, because when you let yourself begin to entertain the idea that beauty might be something different than you think in that moment, you realize that the judgments of beauty and not beauty that you're putting on your voice start to melt away, or they reveal something else that's underlying that thought. So reflecting on what beauty means, just taking the voice out of the equation, reflecting on what beauty means is a huge way that you can get out of the judgment trap of your voice. So to recap, those are the two answers. To recap, vocal beauty part 1, tips to get out of the judgment of your voice. Consider that the voice is a physical muscle system, just like everything else in the body. It needs to be worked in order to be primed. And number 2, reflect on beauty. Okay? That was topic